Welcome to our Facebook Live tonight. I'm Diane Young and I'm speaking on behalf of South Pacific Private. And while we settle and others start to log on, I'd like to acknowledge that we are here today on the land of the Gayamagal people, part of the Eora Nation. The Gayamagal are the traditional owners of the saltwater country on which we work and are part of the oldest surviving continuous nature in the world. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now tonight, as many of you know, at South Pacific Private, we work with the model of developmental immaturity, which was put together by Pia Melody many, many years ago. And we're talking about childhood trauma and self-esteem and how we can reclaim our worth. I wanted to just start by speaking a bit about developmental trauma, because often people say to me, I haven't suffered any trauma, I've loved my mum and dad, I had a good upbringing. What do you mean about developmental trauma? And just to clarify, before we go any further, this is not about apportioning blame to anyone, and it's not about pointing the finger at mum and dad or your caregivers. It's generally the case that our caregivers did the absolute best they could. Now, in some instances, that wasn't very good, and they had very limited tools, many of them, and they did the best they could with what they had, in the same way that many of us as parents have done the same for our kids. So our parents related to us as their parents related to them. So there's a lot about developmental trauma when we're talking about childhood trauma. It doesn't take away from the experience you had, and it doesn't make what happened to many of us okay. So the first step in healing from developmental trauma is to understand what the term means, so we can start looking at the past with an open mind and an open heart. So developmental trauma refers to the push-pull of different forces that we felt as children. The pull towards our primary attachment figure and the push away from the behaviours that we decided are a threat to our attachment. So as a child, it's imperative that we stay attached to our caregivers at all costs. And that means we need to adapt our behaviours in a way that prioritises that relationship above and beyond anything else that we might need. It's a survival system, and it's a very good one for many of us. We need to learn how to stay attached to caregivers from the moment we are born. We're totally dependent, and if we fail to maintain the attachment, we die. So if you think what would happen to you as a 1 week old, or even a 1 month old, if the attachment with mum and dad or caregiver was severed. No milk, no warmth, no shelter. It's a terrifying prospect when you think about it. So attachment works. It's the primary function, and its primary function is to keep us alive at all costs, which makes sense. We're taught how to relate to others and ourselves by the way our parents relate to us and themselves. And this, as we all know, begins at birth. By age 3, pretty much our attachment style's already formed, and it's formed through that relationship with the primary caregiver. So when we are a child and we're choosing attachment over emotional needs, we work with what works for us, or what helps us to survive. So for example, a survival strategy might be, at a young age you're upset about something and you cried. You were told it was wrong or bad, either explicitly or implicitly. So when we cried, we got yelled at, or worse still, we may have had, emotional support withdrawn from us. May have been locked away in our bedroom or completely ignored. So to a child, that's a life-threatening experience. And it may sound dramatic, but it's not, really. Not when you're a dependent child with limited internal resources. Now, if we're in a situation where we're being abandoned or neglected as a child, we actually start to make it about us. So if I've got, Dad or Mum yelling at me because I've cried, or I've got they're withdrawing their affection and love because I haven't behaved the way they wanted me to, and some of the times I didn't even know what that was. I don't make that situation about them. I make it about me. So I'm looking at my parents. They're behaving how they are, so they're yelling at me for something. I don't really know why. Maybe I'm confused why. But what I do know is that I have made you so angry, you're screaming at me. I am bad, I'm wrong, I don't matter, I'm unlovable. Whatever the core belief is, I start to believe about myself. I certainly don't make their behaviour about them. I don't have the emotional maturity to say, Mum and Dad are out of control and they're screaming at me and that's not appropriate. I don't do that. I make it about me. So, what we might do is start to suppress how we feel or play a role to get what we think we can from them, to feel safe, to feel like we fit, we belong, we're part of. As we grow up into adulthood, those behaviours that as a child enable me to survive become what we call adaptive, and we start to have them work against us. So for example, if that's the sort of thing that's happened, there's been sort of abuse and I don't really know why, I'm blaming me, I'm making a story up about the fact that I'm not good enough, what I will start to believe about myself is I don't have inherent self-worth. I'm not good enough. Now the first core issue we're talking about tonight is self-esteem. And when we're talking about self-esteem, we're talking about having difficulty expressing appropriate levels of self-esteem. Now, healthy self-esteem is the internal expression of my own preciousness and value as a person. And I don't have to do anything to get that. It comes from inside me and goes out to the people I'm in relationship with. My sense of worth can be felt irrespective of whatever's going on around me. As a child, with my hair's cut too short, if I'm carrying a bit of weight, as an adult, if I experience bankruptcy, I lose a game of tennis, I'm being gossiped about. If my sense of my own worth is settled, then none of those things are going to overly throw me. I won't like some of them, but I actually won't start to collapse. When I'm healthy, when I'm a healthy individual, I'll feel other emotions. I might be upset because I'm gossiped about, or angry with myself because I missed that tennis shot and lost the game. But my sense of self-worth will remain intact. So low self-esteem, we're talking about low self-esteem and sitting in better than, we call it, or grandiose and arrogant position. So if I'm not of value in the family system just because I stand upright and breathe in and out, then I don't learn healthy self-esteem, that sense of my own preciousness. If I don't learn that, that's not given to me as a child, then I will go to low self-esteem or sense of better than. And low self-esteem can result in, when I get that internalising message that I'm less than other people, and that's often a result of verbal or non-verbal experiences I have in the home. Now, it may just not be caregivers, could be older siblings, could be aunties, uncles, could be people shaming me about my body, could be any number of things. But it actually comes from other people. If I'm sitting in a space of better than, which is arrogance and grandiosity, this develops in children who people in children as children, who learnt that they were inferior to other people, and these children may have been criticised or shamed excessively within the family system, but what they observe is the way that you rise above that feeling of feeling shamed or criticised is you learn to prevail over other people. And the example I often give clients when working with them is, you know, your primary age kid, you come home from school, you know, mum's been, you know, past president of the Netball Association, you're playing netball, she says to you, well, did you make the team? And you go, yeah, look, I'm on the reserve. And she has a hissy fit. What do you mean you're reserve? I've been past president, I've been president of the association. That's just outrageous. You should be in the team. You should be, you know, goal attack or whatever it is. So what you observe is, you know, she's on the phone to the coach, berating the coach because you're not in the team playing. Now, that's not about you. She feels embarrassed because her child's not in the team, and she gets a lot of status and her own sense of worth by doing all this stuff outside of the home. Now, the reality is you may not even like netball. But what will happen is that, you know, she'll bully the coach into getting you on the team. You feel embarrassed about that because everybody knows you weren't on the team. Everyone is going to have a bit of an idea why this has happened. And you will observe her falsely empowering you, observe her falsely empowering herself, and you will actually realise that what you learn is that the way you get along in life is you prevail over others. So people aren't corrected or confronted for their mistakes. They're not guided to acknowledge being responsible for their own imperfections. They just prevail over. And a lot of people with that sense of better than, sitting in grandiosity and arrogance, have such a low self-esteem they can't possibly, like what they present to the world is this face, but behind is this shockingly low self-esteem because they were constantly falsely empowered as children. What they also learn is the way I feel good about myself when I'm in that arrogance and grandiosity and better than space is, it's about, you know, what sort of car do I drive, what address do I have, is my partner good looking, how well behaved are my children, you know, how much money do I earn. It's all about everything on the outside. Now, the interesting thing is that if we don't have a sense of our own inherent worth in here, and we're putting all our self-esteem on the outside, it can be taken away. People can go bankrupt, marriages can go south, relationships can break up, we can lose jobs. And when that happens to people who sit in that grandiose and better than space, they really start to spiral. So what they do is they gather what we call other esteem. And by gathering other esteem, they render themselves fragile and exposed if they lose any of that other esteem. So they'll do anything they can to hang on to it. Now, self-esteem in and of itself, you know, I mean, Pia used to say, if we can get on top of self-esteem and boundaries, we're more than halfway there to recovery from codependency. Codependency occurs in adults who as children were raised in dysfunctional, less than nurturing family systems, and we become codependent adults because we were never taught how to sit in our own emotions, and we will be overwhelmed by them or we'll have none of them. I mean, it's like we're doing one or the other all the time. So the secret to recovery from codependency is to learn about our history, to embrace our history, to look at it, become aware of it, experience how we feel about it. You usually have to do this with a therapist. And actually own the fact that it was less than nurturing. And we don't minimise it. And we don't stay out of denial or delusion. We actually have a look at it and unpack it, take the threads apart. So Peter used to say, if you don't embrace what was dysfunctional in your history, you're doomed to repeat it and stay in the pain. Well, I mean, that's enough for me to want to do work on it, I can assure you, because I don't want to repeat it again. So we have to actually, the first step is in changing and clearing up the distortions, and that requires facing the fact that the disease of codependency exists in your life. And the two key areas of a person's life that reflect codependency is the relationship with yourself and the relationship with others. Relationship with ourselves is the important one, because if we have compassionate, warm and loving relationship with ourselves, that's what we'll create outside. If we don't have a respectful and loving and compassionate relationship with ourselves, then our relationships with others won't become respectful or loving, and we'll just continue to do the cycle. Now, codependency is interesting. There's a couple of things I want to say about it. One of the secondary symptoms that happen if we're sitting in less than or better, that's the core issue. The secondary symptom is that we have negative control issues. Now, the negative control issues fundamentally means that we are manipulative and manoeuvring. No one wants to hear that one, I can assure you. And if you're sitting in low self-esteem, then you'll go, no, that's not what I do. But often it's the sort of covert way we try and get our needs met. We won't actually be upfront with someone about what we need. We'll be manoeuvring and manipulating under here. So we're doing the manipulation. The relational problems that come as a result of low self-esteem or better than is the relational esteem issues. That is, I am only valuable in relation to the fact that I'm in a relationship with you. I can't stand on my own. So it's very interesting if we think about the childhood trauma causes immaturity, and that's emotional immaturity. Both drive unmanageability, and all three problems create problems with being intimate, and the three are sitting in less than or better than, having the negative control issues, and they show up in our relational esteem issues. It's a very interesting thing, self-esteem. If we don't have inherent worth, if there's not a part of us that can actually value ourselves, understand that we are precious. That was Pia's word. She talked about the precious child. We are precious in the face of our own humanity. That is, I'm human, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm perfectly imperfect, but I actually am still a precious human being. I have power in my life because I have self-control. I can stand up for myself, I can speak up for myself. There's so many people who have difficulty with this. And I live in action rather than reaction to others. And that's a very powerful position. Oftentimes, people who are codependent, who suffer with low self-esteem, or in fact sitting better than, will not be in self-control. They'll be in reaction to others, which is either they're backpedaling, trying to keep everyone pleased with them, people pleasing, making sure you like me, or they're coming in overtly to, nearly bully people to give them what they want. Neither of those are functional. They're at opposite ends of the spectrum. The third point I want to make about the internal connections of self-esteem is that we have an abundance, a sense of abundance, a sense of space internally through active self-care and interdependence. That is, I care about myself first, not second, first, not selfishly. and I'm interdependent. That is, I have a sense of being able to stand up for myself, look after myself, be self-supporting. And yeah, it's great if I have help doing that, it's great. But if I don't have it, for whatever reason, I'm still able to be self-supporting. And it's a very powerful place to come from, and a very powerful place to live. Now, I want to talk a little bit about one of the questions that's been asked, thank you Harmony, was why do I still internalise my feelings and emotions even as an adult? Well, it's a bigger answer, but let me see if I can give it a shot. If I grow up in a system where I'm not valued, if I'm not able to esteem myself from within, if I'm looking outside myself to make sure I'm okay, it's like before I got into recovery, I used to say, I'd walk into a room and I'd sort of sniff the air to see if I was welcome. There was no part of me that felt like I was good enough. And it didn't matter what I did or what I achieved. It wouldn't matter how many people told me I'd done a great job in doing something. I didn't believe it. The sense of my validation and affirmation does not come from other people to me. It comes from internally. And the reason I internalise, I'm going to suggest, Harmony, the reason I internalise my emotions and feelings, even as an adult, is because I've never been taught how to express them. Now, you and I both know that there's only 8 emotions, that each emotion has a gift and each emotion has a toxic level. My belief is, and this is my belief, and I have had debates with other therapists about this, is that if I'm sitting in any toxic emotion, I'm generally carrying emotional pain from someone else, or I've so stuffed my own pain through not being able to address it that I can't feel the reality of my emotions. I don't feel anger, I go straight to rage and I internalise it. I don't feel fear, I go to terror, panic and have a panic attack. People talk about panic attacks and rage attacks like they're happening today, and yes, they may be physically happening today, but they're generally triggered from something that's happened in the past, something that's been unresolved. So, I just want to point that out. So internalising them is that we just need to do a little more work about freeing ourselves from what we carry for other people. When we're talking about carried, we're talking, there's child to adult, carried feeling reality. So when mum's screaming at me, I'm absorbing her rage, her pain, her shame, her fear, whatever else is going on. I don't know that. I then grow up into an adult. I don't know how to functional relationships. I'm doing my best, and I might look tickety-boo on the outside, but I'm not feeling great on the inside. I'm going to get in an intimate relationship. Guess what? I'm very likely to get into a relationship with someone who behaves and mirrors some of my mother and father's behaviour. And so I'm going to go to the same place. So when I was talking about the internalising rage from mum, I will be in a relationship with someone who makes me feel similarly the same. For example, if you feel anger, you'll feel it all over your body. You feel fear, it'll be tingling in your upper stomach and upper chest. You feel pain, it's lower chest and heart. Joy, it's all over you. Love, it's a warm swelling in the chest area. Guilt, it's gut, it's like a gnawing sensation. Shame is face, neck and upper chest. You feel like you want the world, the ground to swallow you. Loneliness is heart and gut. So often if we're in touch with our feelings in our body, and I don't mean intellectually, we will be able to navigate our way through it. So adult emotional reality is when emotions are experienced by an adult about what's happening today. Adult to adult in an adult relationship is the state of empathy that's produced between two healthy people. That is, I'm in a relationship with you, I feel an empathy with you, there's an exchange of emotional energy. And the child emotional reality, which I just mentioned, is when the child experiences emotional pain and sometimes positive experiences but the negative ones relate to trauma and produce the sense of being a wounded child and the adapted adult wounded state. And the adult to child carried emotional reality is when there's emotional energy going awry in the empathetic process between a caregiver and a child, and that will be often enmeshment from a parent to a child. This is a really, self-esteem is critical for us as codependent people, with people that have history of addiction. We need to be able to be in a space of being healthy and be able to, what I say is back myself. I need to back myself. You need to back yourself and be able to walk into freedom irrespective of what's being presented to you. I just want to talk about one other thing that happens, and that's to do with shame, and then I'm probably going to finish up. So, when parents are abusive to children, and it can be neglect, abandonment, could be overt, could be covert. In fact, I was talking to a client today, and she said her father was a chronic alcoholic. Her mother was the good one, if you will. And she said it was only in recent years she realised how the father, even though being the chronic alcoholic, it was sort of obvious when he was out of control, but it was never obvious when mum was out of control. And so she realises that her mum has probably done more damage in some ways. Now that's hard to hear if you're the partner of the alcoholic and the addict, because you're looking at them doing a lot of pointing. But sometimes the partner of the alcoholic experiences such control issues that they don't realise that they're doing more damage. And again, that comes out of this low self-esteem. So when we're talking about shame, we're talking about the most problematic carried energy, because it makes the child feel worthless. It deeply wounds the child, makes it impossible for them to begin to esteem themselves from the concept of being of inherent worth. So when we're talking about, we talk about trauma bonding. So let's say there's a whole lot of stuff that's happened to me when I'm a child. I'm now an adult woman. I'm, in a relationship. Maybe I'm struggling. What happens to me is when I start to move into recovery and I start to try and esteem myself from within, and that might be simple stuff like saying no when I mean no and yes when I mean yes. It might mean when I'm setting boundaries, which is not what I'm talking about tonight, but it just to speak to this point. When I start to do that, if I get pushback from my partner, I will, and I haven't done quite enough work, and I haven't let go of it, the shame, haven't been able to work through it therapeutically, then I will have a shame bind, a self-esteem shame bind. Now what that looks like is this. I go into recovery, I think, okay, I'm going to start trying to speak up for myself. I'm going to say yes when I mean yes, no when I mean no. If I don't want to go to the barbecue, I'm going to say, look, I really don't feel comfortable going to the barbecue, you go on your own, or whatever I'm saying. And when I start to do that and I get pushback from people, and I will get pushback because they're used to me behaving a certain way, and I think to myself, God, there's two shame binds that I might experience. The first one is a shame affirmation bind. Now this is what it looks like. I have no right to speak up for myself. I shouldn't have said I wasn't going to go to the barbecue. It's not right that I don't go. I should go because that's what's expected of me, and it's not up to me. I have no value here. I'm of no value in this relationship here because I'm trying to speak up. I'm getting the pushback. No one's hearing me. Now, it's not always on you that they're not hearing you, but it is about, okay, I need to hold that. I need to hold that and say, no, I'm not right. That's not right. So the shame affirmation is, I am of worth. I'm speaking my mind here. I understand you can't hear me, but I'm still going to hold true that I don't want to go to the barbecue. And I can see you're upset about that, and I'm not doing it to upset you, I'm doing it to look after myself. Now, it requires backing yourself. This is very hard for people who have never spoken up for themselves, unless when they've been drunk or out of it or raging. But in a calm way, to speak up for yourself is more difficult. That's the first one, a shame affirmation bind. Now, the second one, same scenario, but slightly different presentation for the dysfunctional person who's in recovery. I speak up, say I want to go to the barbecue, you push back, you're not hearing me, I can't manage it. I can't say I'm going for a walk around the block, I'll be back in a minute, and then regrouping myself or ringing a friend or something. But what I do is I go, I've no right to speak up, I'm putting them out, it's not fair, they should, da-da-da-da-da, I've always turned up, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I've no right to speak up. And the next level of that second one, the shame existence bind, it's called, and I have no right to be here. Now the second one, the shame existence presents like suicidal ideation. It's not. You don't have a plan. But you came from a family system where you felt, you were told you were the cause of someone else's death. You were told you were the cause of someone else's serious illness, like, mum had you and she's never been the same since, she's always had a depression or something. Or you were a twin and one died, or something of that ilk. So you were the cause of someone else's death, you were the cause of someone else's mental illness, and you were told, however you were told, you were of no value in the system, in the family system. Now children who are given that message will always go to, and I have no right to be here. And they have to work doubly hard to build that self-esteem, to understand that they're carrying things from their history that's not theirs to carry. This is a very powerful tool. When I learnt this about the shame existence bind, it actually explained 3/4 of my life as to why I had always thought, I had no right to ask for anything. It didn't stop me. I kept trying. And eventually, I don't have a problem with it now, but when I was in early recovery, there was really a struggle with that stuff. So as you'll see, self-esteem is extremely important. Sense of our worth is extremely important. We are graced in that we live in a country where mental health is available for people, and predominantly we can provide reasonably good mental health for most people. I think that Pia Melody was in some ways divinely inspired when she put the model together. It took us 6 years from beginning to end to actually finalise it. She used to always say, be grateful you didn't have to do those 6 years. I am grateful, Pia. She's passed just recently, poor little. And I want to say to you that if you are struggling with any sort of carried emotional pain, feelings and emotions that you feel aren't yours, feeling like they might be old, that you've carried them, please reach out and get help. South Pacific is available for you. Therapy is available for you. Many people work in this field now that understand the developmental immaturity model. They understand that it's important that we do this inner work so that we can be the best version of ourselves. So it's very good to see you tonight. I'm very grateful. I thank you, Stuart, and thank you, Linky. I do think it's very important for us to get very clear about the impact that our childhood and the behaviour of our parents and older siblings had on us. And as I said at the beginning, this is not to blame them, but it is to allow them to take accountability, and for us to be able to say, okay, this is what happened to me, and about that I feel this, and that's where I've got to do my work. And I do know that if you're willing and able, we can walk into freedom with all of this stuff, free of our addictions, free of our a sense of not being good enough, and you know the affirmations that come as a result of understanding we have lower self-esteem is, you know, I have a right to be here. I am of value and worth just as I am. Very simple. So thank you, Tan, and Alita and Kim. It's very good to hear from you. Thank you, Mick. Good to see you. You can always reach out to South Pacific tomorrow. I mean, there's a 1-800 number. You can leave a message tonight if you want to. And it's lovely to be with you again. So I will leave you with all of that. I feel like I've thrown a lot at you. I hope it's been helpful. And I look forward to catching up with you next time. Thank you.